Hi, Bob here. I just wanted to say before we start the show, there's a little bit of mic issues, some mic popping going on. I think maybe something was loose, or we may need to get some new gear. We'll find out soon enough, but I just apologize for some of the mic static that you hear in this episode. That said, thanks for listening, and on with the show.
We're alone. Life is only on Earth. And not for long.
Justine and Mike.
Never seen you look so happy.
Enjoy it while it lasts. I myself hate marriages.
She ruined my wedding. I will not look at her.
Is everybody in your family stark raving mad?
I thought you really wanted this, but I do. What star is that?
Melancholia is just gonna pass right in front of us, and it's gonna be the most beautiful sight ever.
It's getting a lot different.
What did you expect? I'm afraid of that stupid planet.
Dad said there's nothing to do.
Then he's forgotten about the magic. I want us to be together when it happens.
Hello, welcome to Movie Umpers. My name is Bob Sham.
My name is Angela.
The sounds here may be dogs.
Mm-hmm.
I am wearing my GQ black bucket hat. It's the end of the month. And we have a crossover here. All month we talked about future dystopia movies that take place in the near future or further out. We're calling it Some Bullshit Tomorrow. And it crosses over with our greater yearly theme, Dreary Year of Lars von Trier or something like that, where by the end of the year we'll have discussed a dozen Lars von Trier movies. And this movie we're discussing of Lars's today works for both of those.
Absolutely.
So this is really the last episode of Some Bullshit Tomorrow before we go off to Europe next month. Though we are in Europe here, even though they don't say it. All of his movies are filmed in Europe. Mm-hmm. Do you think this movie was in the state of Washington, like Dancer in the Dark and Antichrist?
It's hard to tell where we are because we don't leave this estate that they're on, ever.
They're at a castle which seems European, but we do have castles in America because along the way, people wanted to feel European when they had a lot of money.
Yeah, it's also a castle on a huge golf course. Before we get too far into the movie, can we just take a moment to say that this is the first time we've recorded since the brilliant and wonderful Gina Rowlands passed away.
Oh, that's right.
And
at the tender age of 94.
Listen, she lived a long, good life.
No,
I'm glad that we had her as long as we did. But this one hit me pretty hard.
She lived her life. She made it.
Yeah.
If you're in your 90s, you kind of made it.
Absolutely. I think for me,
but she is amazing.
She's amazing, and it feels more fresh, even though obviously I know she's an older woman, and I've known who she is for a long time. But since we watched A Woman Under the Influence, that movie really is a big deal to me.
Yeah.
That is now one of my all-time favorite movies. She is so brilliant in that film.
Unbelievable.
I think about that movie a lot. And
I've heard that movie cited as one, like a great movie that you only want to watch once because it's just so fucking intense.
Yeah.
But I would say that the beach scene in that movie is very rewatchable. But it also symbolizes, well, it doesn't symbolize, it literally shows how fucked up that whole family is. Yeah, we got more Cassavetes that we need to watch. And
absolutely we do.
He seems like our kind of guy. And doing this show has exposed us to that and Gina Rollins. But when she passed, the biggest movie that was cited in her credits was The Notebook.
Yeah.
Her son directed that.
Oh, I didn't realize it was her son.
Old Nick.
I was
who directed John Q, which we discussed.
Oh, right. I was with people who are 15 to 20 years younger than me. And that was the touchstone that I made them know who she was. You know, that not I made them know, but that they connected with who she was.
Yeah. R.I.P. the great Gina Rowland. You can listen to our episode of A Woman Under the Influence, in which we were blown away by her performance. And if you watch a movie that is challenging to sit through on an emotional level, but you'll never see anything like it. You'll never see another performance like hers. She really is fantastic in it. One of the great performances. That said, another great performance by the planet Melancholia. Excellent work by that planet. I'm wearing my GQ bucket hat, my black GQ bucket hat that I got through Gentleman's Quarterly magazine. They sent me an email and they're just like, if you get 6 months of GQ magazine, we'll send you this bucket hat. And I'm happy I love the bucket hat. The magazine they sent me, I haven't read one sentence in it. Maybe never will.
But it has Kevin Costner on the front.
OKC on the front, yeah. And
I work with a girl who's in love with him, so if you don't want it, I could just take it to her and it would at least get looked at.
My grandma loved Kevin Costner back in the day, Dances with Wolves era.
My mom did too.
She would have caught devious back shots from Kevin Costner back in the day.
Oh, God.
Your mom too?
Yeah.
Can you imagine Kevin Costner getting your mom's cheeks? He looks great for his age, by the way.
Sure.
I mean, all our moms and grandmas are lusting after him like 30 plus years ago. He does look really good now. But should I keep wearing the GQ bucket hat through the recordings from then on? Should I retire it and let it go? Should it be my personality? They made it big, and I got a large head, because they knew that if anyone's going to get enticed by a Gentleman's Quarterly black bucket hat, it's going to be some big-headed, big cranium fellows like myself.
I think that if you're going to continue wearing it and it's going to become your thing, you should get some bling up on it. Bling it?
You mean like bedazzle it?
Put like,
rhinestones,
you got some buttons in there. You could put some buttons on it. We could get you a little flower like blossom.
We'll come back to this, but I do, this
is very important conversation.
It started ironically, but it's not ironic anymore. I do like this hat. It's comfortable. It makes me want to go fishing.
Here's my request. Should you keep wearing it, and that's fine because that's a personal decision, I would like to stop talking about it every episode.
I just want everyone who's only listening to know I'm wearing a black bucket hat with the GQ logo on it. That's all. But I can at least accommodate that, I think, if I wear it going forward.
Okay, do the intro of this movie so we can jump in.
We're talking about the movie Melancholia from 2011 by Lars von Trier, written by Lars von Trier, starring Kirsten Dunst, Charlotte Gainsbourg, Alexander Skarsgård, Kiefer Sutherland, Stellan Skarsgård, John Hurt, Brady Corbett, amongst others. Cinematography by Manuel Alberto Claro. This movie costs about 9.4 million, made 22 million. So I'm not sure how much marketing costs, but it did seem to make a little bit of a profit. I have this impression that, like, if I hear about a movie, then the marketing was good. If I don't hear about a movie, the marketing was bad.
For sure.
I don't know if that's a fair way to assess any movie marketing, though.
I do.
But I did hear about this movie, so I'm assuming the marketing was good.
Yeah, I heard about it too. I don't know if it was necessarily advertised with Lars von Trier's name really big on it, because I
remember it being
I don't
that.
recall. Okay. I do recall during the height of pandemic, when we were in lockdown, this movie had a resurgence.
The pandy, as I call it.
I didn't watch it.
Though? I have not heard of that.
I didn't watch it during that time, but I read about people watching it and referencing it because there was that whole conversation during lockdown about how people who already had a lot of anxiety handled the situation of having to stay in their home and...
By watching the world end?
No. Just forget about the movie for 1 second. There was a conversation about, during the pandemic, it was a very high-stress time for everyone. People who had a already high level of anxiety, some of them found that once the whole world got anxious, they were a little more calm. They felt a little more normal. And so there were comparisons to this movie in that feeling. Because in this movie, it's broken into 2 parts. The first part is about Claire, who is played by Kirsten Dunst. And she the form of melancholia that we are used to hearing about. She's depressed. She is sad. She feels like she has this weight on her that she cannot let go of. The second half of this focuses more on Charlotte Gainsbourg's character. They're actually like named after each character. And it's focused on Melancholia, the planet that is coming to get them. But in that shift, but once you shift from Kirsten Dunst not being able to handle just living life to you shift into a different feeling of, oh, everyone has impending doom, not just Kirsten Dunst, she becomes more calm, kind of flippant about it.
Well, you made me think of the Pandy era, which is so weird that people would be calm. But one annoying thing that I would encounter online during the pandemic was the type of people that constantly tell you they're introverted, talk about how like, oh, this is just normal for me. Be so introverted that I don't have to hear that you're introverted all the time. But Kirsten Dunst, as Justine, she is sad all the time. She's getting married.
Oh, that's right. I got their names wrong. She's Justine. Her sister's name is Claire.
Charlotte is Claire, yes. And Justine is getting married. It's the happiest day of her life, right? And she's getting married to Alexander Skarsgård, who plays her husband or fiance.
No, they're married. They're coming from their ceremony. So they had a ceremony.
We missed the ceremony.
Yeah, we didn't see the ceremony.
Oh, we're
because
reception
when
only here.
They get to the reception, everyone's pissed because everyone else has been at the reception for 2 hours waiting on them to get there because there's some confusion. Not confusion. The limousine is too long to make the curvy roads leading out to this golf course castle that they're having the reception at. So they already got married, but now they're supposed to go to the party that's going to last literally all night.
But she's so sad that it keeps breaking up the mood of the party. She has a reputation for being very depressive. The Depression trilogy, as Lars has cited it, Lars himself suffers from extreme depression. So it's easy to see that Justine is a stand-in for Lars in the way he feels.
The way that she describes it to Claire at one point is that she's walking through thick, heavy cobwebs. And they show an image of that at one point. Not when she's saying it, but at another point when
we open in the film and they're like these
flashes.
They're stills, but there is movement. It's like super slow motion.
And some of them you kind of see later, but a lot of them are just feelings or expressions of things that are going to happen that you don't quite understand. Like at one point you see Claire, Justine, and the kid all like in their wedding clothes in the yard. But that never actually happens, but later they're in the yard together for a different reason.
She keeps disappearing and going and laying down somewhere. And everyone is concerned about her. And it's a mix of being concerned about her and also being extremely resentful of her. Mm-hmm. But the best character in this whole movie is played by German character actor Udo Kier as the wedding planner, who can't even look at her because she's ruined her own wedding, but is ruining his wedding because he's the wedding planner.
She ruined my wedding. I will not look at her.
and he's like putting his hands
Every
up
time he's like, I will not look at her. She has ruined my wedding.
I like to think that as the planets colliding and it was ending, that his last thought was how much of a bitch she was. Like, even as everything was being destroyed.
Her husband is so in love with her. He also understands the issues that she deals with to a point. I don't know if he's seen her at her absolute worst, but he knows that she gets sad and he wants her to be happy. He's constantly trying to consummate their marriage. She never fucks him that night. She actually fucks this guy that works for her boss who's trying to get a tagline out of her on her fucking wedding day. Okay.
The boss is played by Stellan Skarsgård.
He does not play his own son's father.
Who is not his own son's father.
He plays the boss of his son's wife.
Yes, she's really good at marketing. Also,
He's a big asshole.
Kiefer Sutherland is, what's his job? He's not an astronomer.
He owns the castle and golf course.
Yeah,
So he's fucking rich as shit. That's his job.
So
I think that he rents it out and he makes money off of people coming to play golf.
The astronomy thing is like his hobby.
It is his rich boy hobby.
I thought Lars was saying that he's an astronomer who's super rich, lives in a castle, which seems like apropos to how Lars very much simplifies people's jobs and stuff, and the way he just kind of like, it's not the centerpiece of his stories, but it just seems like the way Lars presents occupations is extremely simplified, probably because all this guy can do, and I can relate to this, not that I'm a director, but in other ways, but this guy only knows how to make movies. And this is what struck me as funny in Dancer in the Dark, when Bjork's character was like scolding her son for hanging with the automobile thieves.
Right.
Because it's just a very simplistic way, and maybe they just ad-libbed that, I don't know, but it seemed like a very simplistic way to let us know that her son is a little delinquent.
Yeah.
That it just come off a little clunky.
Yeah.
And I feel that in certain aspects through other Von Trier movies in terms of how he describes other people's occupations and how simplified it is.
For sure. I think the simplified I have a theory about Kiefer Sutherland. The simplified job is that he is somehow crazy rich. They want for nothing and live in this castle on a golf course that makes them money.
This guy's got to be like a lord, like a descendant to like just have a castle.
Maybe. He has a bad habit of talking about how much things cost. And at one point, Charlotte Gainsbourg is like, he needs to just shut the fuck up because he has more money than he can think about. Okay, so the thing about the astronomy for him, to me, someone who knows a little bit about something and decides they know everything about it. Because he is an amateur astrologist. He has a really expensive telescope. He has one really expensive telescope. He has decided that he knows what's going to happen with this planet Melancholia. And I'll let you explain what's happening with that in a second. But he's decided he knows what's happening. He's decided he knows better than the scientists that his wife are reading articles from on the internet. He knows what's going to happen. And he is steadfast in that and stubborn in it.
So we're in some Dunning-Kruger territory. Dunning-Kruger is often, one is like someone who's really dumb and confident, but they have nothing to back it up. We all know people like that. But Dunning-Kruger also manifests in people who are very skilled and intelligent, who think that because they're very skilled and intelligent in a small thing, that entitles them to greater knowledge beyond everything else.
That's exactly this character. I'm not going to say what happens yet because I think it's more important that we get to it to talk about it. But when he realizes he is wrong, he cannot handle it.
Based on the information we get and through the visuals of a website that looks like it's from like 1999, it just only lacked like flash stuff on it, right? We see a chart where, a planet, and this is a notion that has existed in science fiction for a long time. The idea that there's another planet completely opposite on the orbit of us, on the other side of the sun, but if it's constantly on the other side of the sun from our orbit, we will never see it.
It's been hiding behind the sun for our whole lives, the planet's whole life.
Though it seems like if your Hubbles can go out to other planets, it should be able to mark other things, but whatever, right? We're just having fun here.
Yeah.
And something happened to where this thing is getting closer. Like it's not parallel to us anymore. It's a planet called Melancholia that is coming straight for our planet. And in this world, there seems to be a divide amongst the scientific community, whether this will hit us directly or just barely miss. And we see a chart because the kid is looking shit up or something. And
The
Charlotte
mom does too. Yeah.
where
they both do.
Where it looks like it will pass, but the gravity or something might slingshot it back.
Right. Because once it gets so close to Earth, some people think it's a planet, its gravitational pull is from the sun, it will pass us by. But this theory is that once it gets close enough to us, because we are bigger, it will get caught in our gravitational pull.
You know, there's an implication here as well, and I've got some theories here, that if it's on the exact same opposite side, distant from the sun, equivalent to the Earth, this planet could have life on it. Also, I just want to say that I thought Kirsten Dunst and Charlotte Gainsbourg are fantastic in this movie.
Amazing in this movie.
And I love this specific character. You know, with Antichrist, we commented on, if you need someone to do fucked up shit, get Charlotte Gainsbourg. She seems to do it. But she played someone who is desperate to be grounded, but also is just living in fear that you understand.
Yeah.
And I thought she nailed this character so good. And I like how they bounced off of each other. Just the pairing and their roles and how they played it. I loved their roles here.
It is immediately apparent from the very first interaction that they have that Charlotte as Claire has been not only taking care of, but defending and protecting her sister their entire lives.
Yeah.
The problem with Justine, it's a mental issue, right? She has depression. She has it to such an extent that it is debilitating, like physically debilitating. At one point, Claire's trying to get her in a bathtub and she can't stand up. And you know, Claire is used to this. And what makes it so real is that you see Claire get mad at her in moments about it. Truly saying, I hate that you're like this.
You can't blame her.
You cannot blame her. I love you, but I fucking hate this. One time it would be nice if you stood up and were the strong one.
Yeah.
That's what we get in the first half.
I think everyone understands that dynamic somewhere in their life.
Absolutely. And this is extreme, but that happens in almost every relationship. There's like the give and take, and it changes over time depending on what's happening.
Justine, I should point out, she never consummates her marriage.
However.
But she does fuck the nephew of her boss, and she tells off her boss and calls him a scumbag.
So
right?
she quits her job at her wedding.
But also her relationship is over before by the time the reception is ended. Like he just walks off.
Yeah, he comes out of the house with his suitcase and says,
So I guess we'll take off now.
Yes.
These could have been a lot different.
Yes, Michael, they could have been.
we're going to leave now. And she says, I think that's best. And he goes home with his parents.
So it's like the second act, and that's when we start to discuss Melancholia. So here's my theory. My second one, my other theory is that, well, I've got three theories.
Okay.
My first theory is that there is life on that other planet that may be equivalent to what Earth has. My second theory, and let's have a little fun here, is that Justine's extreme sense of depression is pulling the planet towards Earth. If the other planet has life on it, they call the other planet Melancholia. I almost interpret it as though Justine is born on the wrong planet. Like, maybe she was meant to be on this planet, and it's like something about just the absolute weight of her sadness is just yanking this planet close to her.
Okay, that theory makes sense for me for two reasons. Because it is a physical representation, manifestation of what she feels, because she feels the weight of the world on her back. This is an entire world coming at her. It is hard for her to think outside of herself to other people. So the fact that she does feel connected to this planet, she never says it's coming for her, but there is a point where she talks about how she knows things. She does become calmer the closer the planet gets. She has an acceptance of what's happening that Claire cannot have. Because Claire has a son, she has hope and a future, and there's part of Justine, which, listen, this is what happens when people are victims of suicide. Sometimes it's because you think it will be easier to not be here anymore. When someone has such crippling depression, that idea, I feel like I'm treading very lightly because I don't want to like say anything terrible, and I don't mean it. I don't know exactly what anyone is going through at any point, but the idea that she would be more comfortable with just not being alive anymore makes sense based on what we have learned about her.
When it comes to that intense depression, there's a narcissism to it.
Yes.
Because everything is just so focused on yourself and your feeling. I'm not saying that like it can be controlled. I mean, this is a real problem, and I think this probably exists in Lars himself dealing with this, where you're just so incredibly centered, and it forces everyone that's personable in your life to be sucked into your orbit.
Yeah, one thing we did not mention also is that we meet her parents, and they're both awful in different ways. Her dad is completely checked out and doing his own thing.
John Hurt, yeah.
And her mom is like a cunt.
Yeah, just totally.
Just totally a cunt, totally saying straight to her daughter, you're making a fucking mistake. You should never get married. Your father was terrible. I hate marriage. I hate this party. I hate you.
Gabby, I'm sorry to disturb you, but we're ready to cut the cake.
When Justine took her first crack on her body, I wasn't there. When she had her first sexual intercourse, I wasn't there. So give me a break, please, with all your fucking rituals.
We start to talk more about Melancholia, but Kiefer Sutherland's character is assuring everyone that it's just going to pass. And Charlotte's saying, Claire is saying that, you know, not everyone is in agreement that this is going to happen. And they had this like cool little wire device to gauge where it's at, because at the very least, this thing is going to pass by. So,
and the kid's really scared. So they make this thing. The kid makes this thing because he wants to understand what's happening.
It seems like that could make gravity very weird as well. Having a planetoid sweep right by you like that.
The only thing that really happens like that is they lose power at some point. The power is out for the rest of the movie, and it gets harder to breathe because their atmosphere is being shared now by this other planet.
That's kind of a
so
nice
that does
touch.
happen, but the gravity doesn't shift, but that happens, and I thought that was a nice touch.
I think early on, one of the slightly moving images had birds falling. So
yes, birds were falling.
I think there would be some ecological things going on. Well, this thing does pass over.
Lots of bugs coming up out of the ground.
This thing does pass over, and they're gauging that it is going away. But remember, I mentioned the diagram that shows the example that it would like loop back or something into Earth's gravity.
The wire, you adjust it so that the wire's the same size as Melancholia.
Well, yeah, when you're looking up at it.
And
so
then
if
you
it's
wait,
moving,
and then you wait 5 minutes, and then you look again. And if Melancholia is inside of the circle now, you know it's farther away. And if the circle is inside of Melancholia, you know Melancholia is closer. So the little boys watching it kind of get closer, and then they start watching it go away. So everybody feels great, right? We're good. Everything's going to be fine. The next morning, Charlotte Gainsbourg comes out, and she's having her coffee, and her husband looks agitated, but we don't know why. She wakes up, and she looks at the planet, and she's kind of curious. Her husband's not there. She walks over and does the thing. And she waits for 5 minutes. And the planet is closer again.
So now it's panic mode on her part.
She goes to find her husband.
John?
But Justine, yeah, what is...
John?
So earlier in the movie, she had gotten these pills. John? And he thought she was being silly because she brought these pills home basically so that her whole family could take them and die if needed, right? She locked him in a drawer. So she can't find her husband anywhere. She goes to the drawer. She opens the drawer. The bottle's in there. She closes the drawer and she goes back and the pills are gone. She finally finds her husband and
in the horse stables.
He has taken the whole bottle of pills and is dead.
Yeah, he
is the fucking worst.
Yeah, the biggest pussy. We're all going to go and you can't be with your family, or at least share this with your
He was
family.
doing this like I told you bullshit. The world's going to end and you were wrong, but you can't handle it so much that you not only take all of the pills so there's nothing left for anyone else, if that should be the plan, but yeah, you choose not to hold your son and wife in the last moments of your lives.
I have a question, and this is fucked up, but this is a pretty devastating movie anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the only time where murder-suicide is appropriate?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess so.
I think so. You know, the only one that would be murder-suicide would probably be the child because he wouldn't understand. I do think knowing that the world is going to end, if that's the decision that you collectively make together, I think it's okay.
Justine is no more phased that the planet's going to crash into Earth.
She's resigned.
Than she was before. And this is something we saw in Antichrist as well, in which she says,
The earth is evil. We don't need to grieve for it. What? Nobody will miss it. But where would Leo grow up?
Earth is just an aberration. Yeah. It's not gonna matter when all of this is gone. It's no big deal. This is it.
I think she actually says the planet's evil at one point.
Yeah, she touts the theory that this is the only place where there is life on Earth in the entire universe.
All I know is life on Earth is evil. There may be life somewhere else, but there isn't. How do you know? Because I know things.
Which is not an uncommon thinking, and there is some theories to that. I know it seems easy to assume that there's alien life out there. It's definitely more fun to presume that. But the reality is that either way, we really don't know, as of this time. I know we're seeing weird things in the sky and we're verifying that, but we're not sure what those things are. But yeah, she's just like, nature is evil. The earth is evil. Life is evil. It shouldn't exist. It's nowhere else in the universe, so we'll be fine. The real finality of having a heavenly body crash on the earth and just changing everything and killing off humanity. I mean, if you suffer from extreme depression, you could understand how maybe the thought of that would be a little cathartic. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if it's cathartic, if Lars, well, obviously Lars thinks about that. He conceived this movie. Yeah, what does that mean? Sometimes when you think about the loss of things in our lives, right? Or people we love, animals we love. The thing that feels more tragic almost than just losing something you care about is this idea that someday no one will ever think about that thing anymore. Yeah. But none of that will matter if like a giant asteroid just slams into the planet, destroying all life. The sun will expand in 1 billion years and engulf the earth. Someday, all known, unless we get further out into the stars for whatever reason, someday nothing will matter in terms of what remains on this planet.
If you are someone who struggles with super severe depression and you have potentially had those thoughts of ending it or no longer being here, that decision is taken out of your hands.
Yep.
There's a calmness in there's nothing I can do about it. So I'm just going to be.
So Claire comes up with this concept of them all being together except for Queefer.
Because he's a fucking asshole.
Or Queefer is playing the character John.
He's the biggest coward.
I thought this was funny, this scene, when she has this idea, let's all just drink wine and sit on the most wine mom, yeah. The wine mom in way to the end of the world. And I know she's just trying to cope, and I kind of felt bad for her. But Justine was like,
"Do you know what I think of your plan?"
No. I was hoping that you might like it.
I think it's a piece of shit.
And Justine has a relationship with her nephew where they talk about building caves, Aunt Stillbreaker or something, and how they build magic caves that'll protect them. So they put up this outline of like a teepee, and they all sit together underneath this, and it's actually quite sweet as you see Melancholia coming forward and forward until finally the planetoid just hits the earth and you see it all just go up. And we know that Melancholia is going to hit the earth because at the very beginning of the movie, we see that. He gets it out of the way. He doesn't want that suspense to distract because that's not what the movie's about. This is about the end of the world.
It's going to happen. How do these people deal with it?
Even as they're sitting there hoping, that's not it. So it's interesting to take in the wedding and all this stuff, just knowing that it's all going to be for nothing.
Exactly. That's another part of it. It's so extravagant.
Yeah.
It's such a big show. And guess what? It doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
The planet is beautiful. It's this blue, gorgeous. They look at it through the telescope, but it is this beautiful killer coming to get you.
And that is Melancholia from 2011 by Lars von Trier. An interesting movie. We're going to give this 1 through 5 each combined for best out of 10. I could go up a little later because I think this is a very interesting movie. And I really like the performances by the two leads. But I can settle on a solid 4.
I'm going to go 4.25.
Take a look at it, folks, at an 8.25. An easy A. Melancholia is in between the movies Mad God by Phil Tippett and Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It's so similar to those movies. I do think this is among the higher end of his. Breaking the Waves is still the only S tier, but I think this, unlike The Planet, near misses the S tier.
Yeah.
We'll reevaluate. We shuffle things around all the time.
I think at the end of the year, especially, once we've finished watching.
We're just making our rules up.
Yeah,
so that means there truly is no rules. Just rate things in your own rating system. Don't accept ours. Ours is just a guide. There's a link in the show notes below us and other places to find us in those links. And yeah, you can see how we rated things, where we shuffled things around since we rated things. But also, it's more posterity to show all the movies that we have discussed.
Yes.
Recently and in the past.
We just want to have it all in one place where it can be referenced. There's not much else going on there.
So yeah, like, subscribe, leave a comment. Tell us what you think of. Do you think my theories are right? Did she pull the planet with her sadness? Was she meant to be born on the planet that is named after how she is all the time? Seems like it to me. I don't know. But we also lost all the people on Melancholia, too. You got to remember that.
There may be life somewhere else, but there isn't.
Talk to you very soon. We'll be on a European vacation next week.
Death to all traitors.